Welcome to another episode of our Animal Farm analysis series, where we break down the allegorical and symbolic elements of George Orwell's masterpiece. Today, we're diving into Chapter 2, a pivotal chapter where the seeds of revolution are sown. Chapter 2 of Animal Farm marks a dramatic turning point. It's here that Old Major's dream, and the revolutionary ideas he shared with the animals, begin to take shape into an organized movement. The chapter focuses on the events after Old Major's speech, detailing how the animals plan the rebellion and finally overthrow Mr. Jones the farmer. But in doing so, Orwell also illustrates the dynamics of power, ideology, and betrayal, key themes that carry throughout the novel. In this chapter, the animals' rebellion against their human oppressors is a clear allegory for revolutionary movements throughout history. Old Major's speech, which presented the idea of a world free from human exploitation, echoes the revolutionary fervor that swept across Russia in the early 20th century. The animals' desire for equality and freedom represents the early ideals of socialism and communism. The revolution itself, which begins with the overthrow of Mr. Jones, can be seen as an allegory for the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 in Russia, when the working class, led by Lenin and the Bolsheviks, overthrew the Tsarist regime. The animals' initial sense of unity and hope mirrors the early optimism of the Russian Revolution, as people believed that with the overthrow of the Tsar, they would achieve equality and prosperity. As we move through the chapter, Orwell uses symbolism to deepen the critique of political ideologies. The rebellion itself symbolizes the overthrow of corrupt and unjust systems. It starts with the animals' desire to take control of their own lives, to break free from the exploitation by humans. But as the revolution progresses, the dangers of power and leadership become apparent. The act of rebellion, though initially just, marks the beginning of a cycle where those who fight for freedom may become the very oppressors they once fought against. The creation of the flag represents the beginning of the animals' new nation, their identity and ideology coming into form. The flag, with its green background, symbolizes the fertile land that they now own, and the hoof and horn are reminiscent of the sickle and hammer from communist imagery, symbolizing unity among workers, the hooves and peasants, the horn. This is a subtle but powerful symbol of the birth of a new social order. The 7 Commandments. The set of commandments that the pigs inscribe on the wall reflects the idea of codified law in any new government or movement. At first glance, the commandments appear to embody equality and justice. However, the shifting nature of these laws later in the novel demonstrates how those in power can manipulate ideology to suit their own interests. The original ideals of the revolution become distorted, as the pigs slowly begin to undermine the very principles they claim to fight for. The pigs. The pigs' increasing role as leaders symbolizes the rise of a new elite class in any revolution. The pigs, who initially shared the vision of equality, quickly take on the role of the ruling class. Their manipulation of language and power reflects how revolutionary movements can be co-opted by those who wish to gain power, a critique of leaders who become tyrants after overthrowing previous ones. The pigs represent the intellectual elite who often lead movements but become just as oppressive as the systems they replace. Napoleon and Snowball. The 2 pigs, Napoleon and Snowball, symbolize the power struggle between different factions of revolutionary leadership. Napoleon, who eventually takes control of the farm, represents Joseph Stalin and his rise to power within the Soviet Union. Snowball, who is driven out early on, represents Leon Trotsky, the revolutionary leader who was eventually ousted by Stalin. Their rivalry mirrors the historical conflict between Stalin and Trotsky, as well as the internal power struggles that follow revolutions. Boxer and Clover. The hardworking horse, Boxer, and the maternal Clover represent the proletariat or working class. Boxer's dedication to the revolution and his motto, "I will work harder," illustrate the blind faith of workers who toil tirelessly for a cause without realizing that they may be exploited once again by those in power. Clover, though more aware, still shares in this idealistic hope that hard work will bring about equality. The vain mare, Mollie, represents the bourgeoisie or the upper class. She resists the revolution because it means sacrificing her comfort and status. Her departure from the farm later on serves as a metaphor for the aristocracy's reluctance to embrace revolutionary change when it threatens their privileges. The dogs, who are trained to be loyal enforcers of Napoleon's rule, represent the rise of state violence and the suppression of dissent. Orwell uses the dogs as a symbol of how revolutions often rely on brutal force to maintain control. The dogs later become Napoleon's secret police, using terror to suppress any opposition. The opportunistic cat, who participates when it suits her but avoids hard work, symbolizes those who adapt to whichever side benefits them. She represents the opportunists who join movements for personal gain, contributing little but reaping the rewards of others' hard work. Stay tuned for our next chapter analysis, where we'll continue to explore the unfolding events on Animal Farm and dive deeper into Orwell's timeless allegory. Thank you for listening to this episode of our Animal Farm analysis series. If you enjoyed the discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your fellow students. And remember, the revolution might be in the past, but its lessons are more relevant today than ever.